The cave under the southern rocks was cold and dark. Brent placed a small light on the wall and checked the signal beacon again. The blue light was still blinking, slow and steady. Their ride was coming, but it had not reached the sky yet. Nira sat near the back of the cave with the cube resting in her hands. Her eyes stayed fixed on it, as if she could hear something inside. Brent watched her for a moment, then walked to the mouth of the cave. He used his scope to scan the sky. The seeker ship was no longer above the mountains. It had moved east, maybe looking for the second core, maybe looking for them. How much longer do we wait? Brent asked. Nira did not look up. Not long. The core is preparing. Brent turned back toward her. Preparing for what? She looked at him now. To connect. It has begun to learn from you. Soon it will show what was hidden. Brent sat across from her. Why me? What makes me so different? Nira placed the cube between them. You feel the connection, but you do not control it. You listen before you act. You protect what you don't understand. That is what the old builders hoped for. The cube glowed brighter. A soft hum filled the cave. Brent leaned closer. The surface of the cube was changing. Symbols moved across it like water. Then a small beam of light rose from the top. It formed a shape in the air. The star system. Not Korra. Somewhere else. That is the next place, Nira said. Brent studied the shape. There were 3 planets, 1 moon, and a large station floating above a gas world. The cube marked one location with a red dot. It pulsed every few seconds. That's where the third core is, Brent said. Nira nodded. It is also where the machines are strongest. Before Brent could ask more, the beacon changed. The blinking blue turned solid. A soft sound echoed above them. He ran outside and looked up. A ship was dropping through the clouds. It had a small, sharp body and long wings built for fast travel. It was unmarked and silent. The ride is here, he said. They climbed a narrow path to the landing site. The ship touched down gently. Its doors opened, and a pilot stepped out. He was a thin man with gray skin and a calm voice. His name was Jem. He did not ask many questions. He only said, I fly. You lead. Brent and Nira boarded the ship. The cube was placed in a secure chamber inside. Jem lifted the ship quickly. As they rose into the sky, Brent saw the land below one last time. The hills, the mountains, the ruins, all silent now. But the silence would not last. They passed through the clouds and left Korra behind. In the black space above, the stars looked sharper. Nira stood near the window. Where are we going exactly? Jem asked. Brent showed him the shape the cube had formed. Jem studied it, then typed something into the ship's system. That is the Yara Belt. Jem said, very old zone. Used to be rich in trade. Now full of wrecks and patrol drones. Not safe for small ships. We're not going to trade, Brent said. We're going to find something lost. Jem gave a short nod. Then hold on. The ship jumped into a higher path. Stars stretched and blinked as they entered a new line of space. The trip would take a few hours. Brent used the time to rest. Nira stayed with the cube. She spoke no words but watched the symbols as they moved. When they reached the Yara Belt, everything changed. The space around them was full of broken ships, floating metal, and old warning signs. Jem slowed the ship and moved carefully. This was once a mining zone, Jem said. Now it's just ghosts. They passed through a ring of debris. The cube lit up again. A line of blue light pointed toward a planet near the edge. It was covered in clouds. One small moon circled it slowly. There, Nira said. The third core waits beneath that moon. Jem adjusted course. As they neared the moon, the cube started to hum louder. A signal appeared on the ship's screen. Something is down there, Jem said. Not just the core. There's a structure, maybe a station. Brent checked the scans. Can we land? Yes, but not for long, Jem said. Energy levels are strange. Could be another seeker near it. They dropped toward the moon's surface. Thick clouds blocked the stars. Wind shook the ship, but Jem kept control. Finally, they broke through and saw the ground below. A flat, gray surface with a single building in the middle. It was tall and sharp. like a tower with no windows. Jem landed beside it. Bren and Nira stepped out with the cube. The air was cold, but they could breathe. The tower's door opened as they neared it. Inside, the walls were smooth and silver. Lights flickered as they walked out. At the center was a platform. The cube rose from Bren's hands and floated above it. The room began to spin slowly. Symbols on the wall lit up one by one. This core is different, Nira said. It does not speak, it shows. The walls turned into moving images. Bren saw stars being born, planets rising and falling. Then he saw machines, tall ones, thin ones, flying ones, all with cold eyes and sharp arms. They marched across empty lands. Behind them, nothing remained. Then he saw humans, not soldiers, but builders, farmers, teachers, holding lights, protecting children, sharing food. Bren felt something in his chest. Not fear, not pride, just a deep truth. He understood. The cube dropped back into his hands. The images faded. The room became still again. Nira looked at him. It shows you fully now. Bren nodded. I saw why. I saw what comes if we fail. Jem's voice came through the comm. You need to return. The sky is not clear anymore. A signal is moving above us. Bren and Nira ran back to the ship as the door closed behind them. A dark shadow passed over the moon. Another seeker had come, but they were already rising. Bren looked at the cube. It pulsed steady and strong. The third had awakened. The next step was waiting. The stars above the ship stretched wide like a river of light. Bren stood near the front window of the command deck, looking into deep space. Behind him, Nira sat beside the three glowing cubes. Jem adjusted the controls, guiding their ship through the dark path toward the edge of the old galaxy. The journey had taken many days. They had passed silent worlds and old wreckage floating in space. There were no signs of life, only memories left behind. This sector was once full of cities, Nira said, but the machines erased them all. The last core lies on a moon that circles a dead star. It was built to stay hidden. Bren nodded. Why? Because the last core carries the full message of the old builders. Not just power, not just history, but the choice they left behind. They built 3 tests, and you passed them. Now comes the decision. Jem turned his head. What kind of decision? Nira looked down. What will humans do with the knowledge they now hold? Will they defend it, share it, or become like the Seekers, consuming until nothing is left? Bren did not speak. He kept his eyes on the map. The ship moved closer to the moon. The starred circle gave off no light. Everything felt quiet, like time had stopped. As they landed, dust covered the ground in soft layers. The moon had no wind, no sky, no color. Only one large structure stood near the landing zone, a black tower shaped like a blade. Its top curved slightly as if pointing to the stars above. They stepped out and walked toward the tower. As they came closer, the cubes glowed brighter. The entrance opened without sound. Inside, the walls were smooth and dark. No writing. No pictures. Only silence. At the center of the tower, they found a platform. Floating above it was the 4th cube. It was larger than the others, and it spun slowly in the air. Bren stepped forward. The moment his hand touched the edge of the platform, the cube stopped spinning. A voice filled the chamber. It was not Nira's voice or any human voice. It was soft and clear, like it came from the stars themselves. You have come far. The voice said, you have faced danger, saved what was lost, and protected what was sacred. Now we ask the last question. The cube rose higher. Lights formed around it, showing scenes from long ago. Cities that floated, machines that built, life, stars that were tamed. Then, it showed the fall, the seekers turning against their makers. The silence that followed. You are human, the voice continued. You carry fire and heart. You can build or burn. What will you do now? Bren looked around. He saw Nira. He saw Jem. He thought about the people back on Korra, the ones who fought beside him, the ones who believed in something more than survival. He stepped onto the platform. I choose to protect, he said. Not just the cores, but the meaning behind them. I choose to guide, not rule. To build, not destroy. The cube glowed. The lights in the room changed. The walls opened slowly, revealing a chamber filled with thousands of small lights. They floated in the air like stars. Nira walked to his side. "This is the archive," she said. "Every world the builders touched, every lesson they learned, all of it stored here." Jem stepped forward. "What do we do with it?" Bren turned toward them. "We take it home. We rebuild what was lost. We teach others. And we stay ready. Because the seekers are still out there." Nira nodded. "Then the chain is complete. You are now the bearer of the fourth light. You are the guardian." The platform lowered. The fourth cube floated beside the others. Together, they formed a ring of energy. A quiet sound, like music, filled the room. As they left the tower, Bren looked at the sky again. The Dead Star gave off a soft glow now, just enough to light the path. On the ship, they stored the archive safely. The ship's engines warmed up. Jem set course back to human space. As they traveled through the stars, they picked up messages. Other humans had started to rise. News spread of the fight on Korra. People spoke of the machines and the ancient power. Some feared it. Others hoped. Bren listened to every message. He answered when he could. One message made him pause. A voice asked, "Is it true that a man found the old cores?" That a woman with silver eyes showed him the way. Bren smiled and replied, "It is true, but it wasn't just one man or one woman. It was all of us. We all began that day." The ship flew on. Ahead was a new world. Behind them was a path others could follow. In the end, when Bren helped her, she did not thank him. She said, "Now we must begin." The sky above Korra was no longer silent. Bren, Nira, and Jem returned to the planet quickly. The third core had awakened, and the signal had spread. The seeker ships had followed them. Now, the battle was near. Bren stood inside the shelter again. The same place where it all began. The glowing cube from the first chamber sat on the table. The second and third cubes floated beside it. Together, the light they gave off was strong enough to light the entire room. "These three are now linked," Nira said. "They form a chain, a bridge between the old builders and the new protector." Bren looked outside. The wind blew fast, carrying sand in large waves. The scanner beeped. Jem walked in from the landing zone. "We have 3 seeker ships in orbit," Jem said. "One is already dropping more drones." Bren checked the map. "They're heading for the ruins. They know where we found the first core. Then they'll search the mountain chamber next," Nira added. "If they reach the second core, they will destroy it." Bren placed his hands on the table. "Then we stop them here. We don't let them pass." Jem raised his brow. "We don't have soldiers." "No," Bren said. "But we're not alone." Bren sent a wide signal across Korra. He called for every human still on the planet, old workers, scouts, traders, and builders, anyone still listening. He told them the truth. The machines were coming. The planet was no longer safe. But if they stood together, they had a chance. To his surprise, people answered. By morning, small ships arrived. Men and women came with tools, ground trucks, and old weapons. They had no army, but they had something else. Will. Bren stood before them and spoke. "You don't know me," he said. "I am just a scout, but I found something under this land, something made by hands older than ours. And I found her." He pointed to Nira, who stood silently beside the 3 cubes. "She showed me that we are more than survivors. We were chosen, not to destroy, but to protect. The machines coming here were built long ago, but they lost their purpose. Now they take instead of give. But we will not give them this world." The people nodded. They were afraid, but they trusted him. Jem set up shields around the shelter and linked the ground vehicles into a defense wall. Nira placed the cubes in a sealed chamber deep underground. If the machines reached them, the chain would be broken. The old knowledge would be lost again. Bren led the front line. They waited near the broken ruins, where the first core had awakened. He knew the machines would come there first. The land was flat and open, a perfect place for the first strike. The sky darkened as the first seeker ship broke through the clouds. It moved like a shadow with metal wings. From its sides, drones dropped to the ground. They stood tall, with smooth black bodies and red lights blinking on their heads. The battle began. Bren shouted, and the humans opened fire. The machines moved. Fast, their arms cutting through stone. But the people held strong. They used traps, heavy loaders, and pulse weapons. Every step forward cost the machines more time. Bren moved between the lines, helping where needed. His voice gave others courage. His hands worked like he had done this all his life. Nero watched from the side, guiding small drones to mark the enemy paths. Jem flew above in a scout ship, dropping supplies and clearing a path through the wrecks. More seeker drones came. A second ship dropped near the mountains. Bren knew they were heading for the second core. He took a group of fighters and rushed toward the cave path. The fight grew harder. The machines sent out waves of smoke to block sight. They used beams to burn through the rocks. But Bren pushed forward. When they reached the mountain gate, the drones were already near the entrance. Bren stood in their path. He raised his arm. The cube on his wrist lit up. A wave of energy pushed out, knocking the machines back. Nero's voice came through his comm. The cores are responding to you. They are giving you power now. Not just messages. You are the shield. Bren's body felt warm. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from strength. He moved toward the drones and raised his hand again. A barrier of light formed in front of him. The machines fired, but the light stopped every blast. The other humans saw this and ran forward with new hope. Together, they pushed the machines back. Piece by piece, they cleared the path. By nightfall, the first seeker ship was damaged. The second had lost control and crashed near the rocks. Only one remained in the sky. It hovered far above, watching but not attacking. In the shelter, the three cubes glowed bright. The light they gave off could be seen from the hills. Nero looked at the sky and said, "This is not the end, but it is a start." Bren returned to the shelter. His armor was burned, his arms bruised, but he smiled. "They didn't take anything," he said. "The cores are safe." Jem placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're more than a scout now." Bren looked at the cubes. "I didn't ask for this, but I won't turn away from it. We stopped them once. We'll stop them again." Nero nodded. "There's one more core. The final one. It holds the full truth." Bren stepped forward. "Where is it?" She pointed to the stars. "It waits at the edge of the old galaxy. No one has reached it for 1,000 years. But now we have a path." Bren smiled. "Then we take it." The chamber under the mountain was still. The large golden cube floated in the center. Glowing softly, Bren stood close to it, trying to understand its words. The machines around it had stopped moving when he stepped in. They were now quiet, resting like sleeping animals. Nero walked around the room, her eyes watching the walls. Strange symbols ran across the stone like flowing water. They pulsed faintly, reacting to the light of the cube. "This is a keeper core," Nero said. "It holds knowledge and memory, but it also watches the sky." Bren turned to her. "What does it mean by sequence ready?" "It means you are now part of a chain," Nero replied. "You've connected with two cores. That has not happened for a very long time. The next one will respond to you faster." The cube spoke again, its voice clear and smooth. "Warning. Hostile signal detected. Tracking orbit path." Bren stepped back. "Did it say hostile?" "Yes," Nero said, her face serious. "The seeker is closer now. It has found this location." Bren looked up at the chamber ceiling, as if he could see the sky. He felt a tight pull in his chest. "Can it come down here?" "Not yet," Nero answered, "but it will try." The cube lowered itself gently to the ground. A beam of light shot out and formed a flat image in the air. It showed a black ship above Korra's surface. The ship had no lights, no windows, and no clear shape. It looked like a shadow made of metal. Slowly, it moved across the map. Bren stared at it. "It's already scanning the mountains." Nero nodded. "We need to leave this place. The Seeker will not stop. If it reaches this core, it will destroy everything inside." They left the chamber quickly. Bren placed the first cube back into the shielded case. The golden cube stayed where it was, now protected by the machines in the room. As they walked through the tunnel, the light behind them began to fade. Outside, the wind had changed. It no longer moved gently. It pushed hard across the land, bringing with it a strange sound. Low and sharp, the sky had darkened, not from clouds, but from something else. They got back into the rover. Bren started the engine and turned the vehicle away from the mountain. As they moved across the land, the warning light on his scanner turned red. A new signal had entered the sky. "It's coming down," Bren said dot above them. The black ship passed through the clouds. It moved without sound, like a bird gliding through water. Long metal arms reached from its sides. Beneath it, around shape opened, a smaller machine dropped from it, falling fast toward the ground. "That is a seeker drone," Nira said. "It is fast and silent. It will search for energy from the core." Bren drove faster. The rover bounced over rocks and cracked land. The drone hit the ground far behind them, sending up a wave of dust. Its body was tall and thin, made of dark metal with no face. It turned once, then started moving toward the mountain entrance. "They are not alive, but they learn," Nira said. "It will study your pattern and try to block your path next time." Bren looked over at her. "You sound like you've seen them before." "I have," she said. "They destroyed my world. That is why I was sent to find the one who could wake the cores. To stop them before they do it again." Bren's hands tightened on the wheel. The landscape blurred past. They were not safe yet. An hour later, they reached a hidden outpost built under a rock ledge. Bren had used it before for short repairs. It was small but strong. He parked the rover inside and locked the gate. "We stay here for now," he said. "If the drone tracks heat or movement, this place will block most of the signal." Nira placed the cube case on the table. She sat down, her eyes fixed on the metal walls. "This planet is only the beginning," she said. "There are more cores. Each one holds more than the last. The final one will reveal the full message. But it is far from here." Bren sat across from her. "Far how?" "Another system," she said. "We will need a ship that can cross sectors. That will not be easy." Bren opened a drawer and pulled out a signal tracker. "I can call for one, but it will take 2 days to arrive. If the Seeker finds this place before then, we're trapped." Nira looked at him. "Then we use the time well." Over the next day, they worked together. Nira taught Bren how to read the symbols from the core. She showed him how the machines responded to patterns, not just voice. Bren learned fast. He had never been more focused. Something inside him had changed since he touched the second core. It was not power. It was clarity. By the second evening, the tracker buzzed. The drone had returned to the surface. It now moved in wide circles, scanning the land. Bren watched its path through the small screen. It was getting closer to their outpost. Nira stood beside him. "We must go before it finds us, even if the ship has not arrived." Bren nodded. "We take the old tunnel. It leads to the southern rocks. We can hide there until the ship drops." They packed quickly. Bren took only what was needed: water, tools, the cube, and a signal beacon. As they stepped outside, the sky above them was dark again. The Seeker ship still floated high, unmoving like a watcher. They climbed down into the narrow tunnel under the outpost. The path was cold and filled with sharp rocks, but it was safe from the drone's scan. They moved for hours, slowly but without rest. When they reached the southern rocks, Bren activated the beacon. A blue light blinked 3 times, then stayed on. "The ship will find us here," he said. Nira looked to the stars. "If we make it to the next world, the third core will be waiting." Bren sat down on a flat stone. He looked at the cube in his hands. "We're not running anymore," he said. "We fight now." Nira gave a slow nod. "Yes. Now we begin again." The sun had dropped behind the hills when Bren and Nira left the chamber. The sky above Cora turned dark red. A strong wind started to rise, brushing the ground with fine layers of dust. The ruins looked different now, not just empty and broken, but hiding something alive beneath. Bren drove the rover back to his shelter. The glowing cube sat on the seat between him and Nira. It gave off a soft light, steady and calm. Nira never looked away from it. Her eyes stayed fixed on the cube like it held a memory she had waited years to find. Inside the shelter, Brent placed the cube on the center table. The light from it filled the room with pale color. Nira stood beside him, her face still. Her body relaxed. "This is not just a message," she said. "It is a tool. It can open what has been locked." Brent poured water into 2 metal cups. He gave one to Nira, who took it without speaking. He sat across from her. "Why was it locked in the first place?" he asked. "What were they hiding?" Nira looked down at the cube. "Long ago, there was a war. Not of fire, but of silence. A war of machines built without care. They grew strong, cold, and clever. They forgot who made them. They turned against their makers." Brent leaned forward. "You mean the machines tried to erase the ones who built them?" "Yes," Nira said. "And the ones who built them were not only one kind. There were many, many races working together. The machines broke them apart. In the end, only small pieces remained. The cores were made to carry the last light of that time, hidden in places where only humans could reach." Brent sat back. The cube glowed brighter for a moment, then calmed. He remembered how the machines in the chamber had floated gently around him. They had not attacked. They had not spoken. But they had moved when he entered. "Why humans?" he asked again. Nira looked at him. Her voice was soft now. "Because you still feel." Brent blinked. "What do you mean?" "You do not move only with thought," she said. "You move with feeling. You protect, not just follow. You ask questions. You show mercy. That is what the machines lost. That is what the cores remember." For a while, neither of them spoke. The wind outside grew stronger. The metal walls of the shelter creaked. Brent stood up and walked to the map on the wall. He stared at the center where the ruins were marked. Then he looked farther east, where the mountains began. "There's something under those peaks," he said. "I've seen the land shift near the base, like something pushing from below." Nira joined him at the map. "The next door is there, but it will not open like the first. The machines are already near it." Brent turned to her. "What machines?" "They are called Seekers," she said. "They were once made to explore and protect, but they lost their path. Now they search for the cores, not to use them, but to break them, to keep the past buried." Brent stepped back from the map. "Are they here already?" Nira nodded. "One has entered Cora's sky. It watches, it waits." Brent felt the air grow colder. He walked to the window and looked out. Far in the distance, above the dark hills, a small light blinked in the sky. It moved without sound. Not a star, not a ship he knew. "We don't have much time," he said. That night, Brent couldn't sleep. The light in the sky stayed in the same place, quiet but watching. He sat beside the cube, listening to its soft hum. Nira rested with her eyes closed, her breath steady. In the morning, they left before the sun rose. They packed the cube inside a shielded case and loaded supplies into the rover. Brent drove east, toward the mountains. The air was colder there. The land turned hard and cracked. Rocks rose like broken teeth from the ground. As they neared the mountain base, the cube started to glow brighter, even inside the case. "It feels the door," Nira said. They stopped near a wide stone wall. Behind it, a narrow path led into the rock. At the end of the path, hidden by thick vines and broken metal, was a dark circle carved into the mountain. "This is the second gate," Nira said. Brent approached the circle. When he came close, the glowing lines appeared again, just like at the ruins. This time, they moved faster. The cube vibrated inside the case. Nira handed it to him. "Place it in the center." Brent did. The cube rose from his hand and floated into the air. It moved to the middle of the circle and stopped. A sound filled the path, deep and sharp, like wind inside a cave. The circle opened. Inside was a long tunnel lit by soft blue lines. The air was cool and fresh. Brent looked at Nira. "This one feels different," he said. Nira nodded. "It is deeper, older, and not alone." They stepped into the tunnel. As they walked, the blue light followed their steps. The path led to a wide chamber with a tall pillar in the center. Floating above it was another cube, larger than the first. Around it were small machines, spinning slowly in place. When Bren entered, the machines stopped moving. The larger cube turned to face him. It spoke. Core matched. Human confirmed. Sequence ready. The machines lowered to the ground. The light inside the large cube turned golden. You have awakened the second core, Nira said. You are the first in many lifetimes to do so. Bren felt the weight of those words. He had not asked for this, but now he was part of something that stretched far beyond Korra. The path had opened, and he had stepped through. The rover rolled across the dry land of Korra, its wheels pressing deep into the dust. The engine made a soft sound as it climbed over rocks and dips in the ground. Bren sat in the driver's seat, hands steady, eyes forward. Beside him sat Nira, silent and calm, her teal-blue skin glowing faintly under the morning sun. They had left the shelter just after sunrise. Bren packed food, water, and tools. Nira carried only a small black case. She said nothing about what was inside. When Bren asked her more questions, she gave short answers. Not rude, just focused. They were heading to the center of the map, the ruins, long ago. The first humans on Korra had built towers and machines in that place. They believed it was rich in energy. But strange things happened. Lights flickered at night. Workers heard voices in the ground. After a few years, they stopped building. They left in a hurry. No one ever explained why. Now the place was broken and forgotten. Only wind and time moved there. As the rover reached the edge of the ruins, Bren stopped the engine. The ground was full of broken metal, old beams, and glass pieces. Parts of towers still stood, leaning like tired trees. Cracked panels lay in the sand like dead leaves. We are here, Nira said. Bren stepped out first. He looked around. The air felt heavier. He had been here before, but it had never felt like this. Nira opened her case and pulled out a small round device. It lit up with soft blue light. She walked forward, the device floating just above her palm. What is that? Bren asked. It is a guide, Nira said. It reads the old signals. She moved slowly through the ruins, stopping near a large stone platform. The metal under the dust was smooth and dark. She knelt and pressed the device to the ground. A circle of light spread out, showing strange lines and symbols. This is a door, she said. Bren looked at it. To him, it looked like part of the floor. He had walked over it before and never noticed anything. Nira stood up and turned to him. This place was built over something much older. The humans thought they found power here, but they did not understand what they had touched. They covered it without knowing. She handed the guide device to Bren. It will not open for me. It needs your touch. Bren hesitated, then stepped forward. He held the device in his hand and placed it over the center of the circle. The ground rumbled. Dust jumped into the air. A low sound came from below, like metal breathing. Then, slowly, the center of the platform opened. A staircase was revealed, leading into the dark. After all these years, Bren said quietly. He turned on his light and started walking down. Nira followed close behind. The staircase led them into a wide chamber. The walls were smooth, with strange markings that glowed faintly as they passed. The air was cooler down here. It smelled clean, like rain. At the far end of the room stood a tall arch. It was shaped like a door, but it had no handle, just more glowing lines. This was made by the ones who came before, Nira said, long before humans reached the stars. Bren stepped closer. The lines on the door moved when he came near. They shifted like water and formed shapes that looked like stars. They left messages, Nira said. But they can only be read by certain minds, human minds. Bren turned to her. Why only humans? Nira looked at him for a long moment. Because something in your kind is linked to them, not by blood, but by choice. They saw something in your species, a spark that others did not have. Bren did not know what to say. He had always thought humans were just another life form in space. Good at building, good at fighting, but not special. Now he was being told otherwise. Touch the center, Nira said. Bren reached out and placed his palm on the center of the arch. A light flowed through the lines. The door opened with a deep hum. Inside was another room, round and full of floating machines. They moved slowly, as if waking from sleep. In the middle of the room was a table. On it lay a glowing cube. Nira walked forward and stood beside it. This is the first piece. It is called a core. It holds part of the message left behind. Bren looked around. Is it dangerous? Not to you, Nira said, but others are looking for it. Machines that do not feel, only follow orders. They search for these cores to destroy them or steal their power. She handed the cube to Bren. It was warm in his hands. The light inside it moved like a heartbeat. You are the key, Nira said. That is why I came here. I did not know who you were until you helped me. Now I know. Bren felt a strange weight in his chest. He had only helped a stranger in the desert. Now he was holding something ancient, something important. He looked at Nira. What happens now? We go deeper, she said. There are more places like this, more cores, more doors. The path is long, but you are not alone. Bren nodded slowly. The silence of the chamber seemed to agree with her words. Something had begun. Something bigger than both of them. Outside, the wind started to rise again. But the light from the chamber kept the shadows away. The sun burned over the rocky hills of planet Korra. Dry winds moved across the sand, carrying dust through the air. The sky was red in the evening light. Bren walked slowly through the heat, his helmet cracked at the side, and his boots covered in dust. He had just finished checking an old satellite station that no longer worked. The planet had been quiet for months, too quiet. Bren was a scout. He worked alone. His job was to study places where no one lived anymore. Korra was one of those places. Long ago, people tried to build cities here, but the planet pushed them back. Strange storms and strange sounds from under the ground scared everyone away. Only a few workers remained in scattered shelters. Bren didn't mind the silence. It made it easier to think. He was walking back to his camp when he saw something in the distance. A dark shape near the bottom of a sand hill. He thought it was part of a broken ship, maybe some scrap he could collect. But as he got closer, he saw it was not a thing. It was someone, a person. He moved faster and reached the figure. It was a woman, not human. Her skin was teal blue, and her face had fine lines that shimmered like soft metal. Her body was thin and covered in a light silver suit, now torn at the side. One of her arms was burned, and her breathing was weak. Bren looked around. There were no signs of another ship, no tracks in the sand, no voice calling for help. She was alone. He knelt beside her and placed his hand gently under her head. Her eyes opened slightly. She looked at him, calm but tired, not afraid. You can hear me? Bren asked. She blinked slowly, then nodded once. He gave her water and pressed a button on his wrist to call a medical drone from his camp. It would take a few minutes. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Bren shook his head softly. Don't speak. You're safe now, he said. The drone arrived quickly and hovered beside them. Bren helped lift her onto the stretcher. The machine scanned her body and wrapped her in a soft shield. Together, they went back to his shelter, which was hidden in the side of a cliff. Inside, Bren laid her on the rest bed and placed more water beside her. He started checking the scans. Her body was different, but the systems could still heal her wounds. She rested quietly, eyes closed, hands still. That night, Bren sat near the small fire inside the shelter. He kept checking on her every few minutes. She had not said a word since the dessert. Her breathing was stronger now. Her skin no longer looked burned, but something about her felt strange, not dangerous, just strange. Like she had seen something no one else had. By morning, she opened her eyes again. This time, she sat up slowly. Bren brought her more water. I don't know your name, he said. She took the water, drank slowly, and looked at him. Her eyes were clear now, sharp, still calm. My name is Bren, he added. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just watched him. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, deep, and smooth. Now we must begin. Bren was confused. He expected a thank you, maybe even a question. But she only said those 4 words. She looked around the shelter. then back at him. Begin what? Bren asked. She stood and walked to the corner, where he had drawn a map of Korra. Old mining zones, dead radio towers, hidden caves. She pointed at the center of the map. There, she said. It starts there. Bren stood beside her. You mean the ruins? Those were built by the first settlers. Nothing works there anymore. She turned her head slightly. They built on top of something older, something hidden. Your kind was never meant to find it. But now it calls you. Bren didn't understand. He had heard strange stories about the planet, rumors about the ground shaking when no storms came, lights in the hills at night, old machines turning on by themselves. But no one had ever proved anything. Who are you? He asked. She paused for a moment. I am Nira. I was sent to find someone, a human, one who would help unlock what has been sleeping under this world. Bren looked at the map again. The ruins were only a few hours away by rover. He had passed by them many times. They never showed anything special. You were sent by who? She shook her head. They are gone, long gone. But they left something behind. I carry a part of it. You carry the other. Bren stared at her. He didn't know what she meant. He didn't even believe half of it. But something about her voice felt true. Not just words, a weight, a purpose. He looked outside. The sky was clear. The wind had stopped. Then let's go. He said. And Ira nodded once. Now we begin.